So welcome everyone to On Nite SF. Quick housekeeping note before I begin. We're recording here, and if I could ask people to stay out of the line of sight of the camera, that'd be awesome. So I'm Mike Boland. I'm Chief Analyst of Artillery Intelligence, and I'm stepping in just this once for Tom Emmerich, who's in Austin right now. So Tom's typical role of emceeing and hosting, I'll be kind of your MC for the night. So thank you all for being here. Our theme for tonight is going to be HoloLens 2, which is apropos, of course, because we're back here at the reactor, but also because this is the first On Nite SF that comes after the big announcement last month in Barcelona. How many of you actually went to Mobile World Congress? Nice. Few of you were there. So we're very excited to be doing that, and we're going to get into the program and everything like that. But first, a quick poll. How many of you, is this your first On Nite SF? Nice. So it's a pretty mixed crowd, a lot of regulars, a lot of new folks. So welcome, and we're psyched to have you guys. This is one of the events of the larger AWE kind of event series. AWE, in a broader sense, is the world's largest event series focused on augmented reality and spatial computing. That includes large conferences and expos in North America, in Asia, in Europe, in MEA, and then also meetups like this that are far-flung, throughout the world in local chapters that kind of self-organize meetups like this. So we're here in San Francisco tonight. We appreciate you guys all being here. We are live streaming, and you can also join us on several social networks that are listed here. If you do so, please use the hashtag OnNiteSF. We want to thank Microsoft for hosting us. Once again, we're here back at the reactor. This is such a cool space for us all to convene and to geek out. So round of applause for Microsoft. Again, our star of the night, too, given that we're theming all of our speakers around HoloLens 2. That includes a few speakers from Microsoft, but then also some startups that are building things on HoloLens 2. So we also want to thank SuperVentures, which is, many of you are familiar, it's the seed fund that zeroes in on spatial computing in terms of their investment thesis. They're also very focused on feeding us. The pizza and the beer is care of SuperVentures, so a round of applause for SuperVentures. Rock, Paper, Reality also. So Patrick Johnson, who is the co-organizer of this event normally, who's not with us tonight, is actually, this is his company. It's a full-service AR agency, so we encourage you to check that out. Quick bit about me and my company, just for context. Artillery Intelligence is your typical analyst firm. We have published narratives and data deliverables and multimedia, all focused on spatial computing. We also have a sister publication, AR Insider, which I encourage you to check out. We have kind of daily publishing on all the happenings in the world of AR. You can see that at arinsider.co. And then also, I mentioned AWE, so I'd like to bring up Molly now to talk about the upcoming conference. It's already spring, already time for the big show.
All right, thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Molly. I'm the community manager with AWE, and I just wanted to mention that our early bird tickets are now on sale. If you follow this link that's on the screen, all of the funds used to purchase tickets through this link will go directly back into our On Nite SF chapter to help support us to continue to put on these events. And you can catch me afterwards during the networking if you need that code or that link again. And then I also wanted to mention our next meetup, which will be back here at the Microsoft Reactor, and we're going to be looking at AR and accessibility. We're still working on putting that agenda together, so keep checking our meetup page for updates on that. And if you're interested in helping out in that event in any way, come find me after, or you can email Tom, and his email's up there on the screen for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Molly. How many of you all went to AWE last year in Santa Clara? Nice, good portion. How about the year before? How many of you have been to more than 5 AWEs? Nice, and this will be the 10th anniversary, right? Yeah, nice. More than 5, nice. Okay, so and we hope to see you next month at AWE here back. Are we back at the reactor again? Yeah, right back here for AR and accessibility. So now the AR Roundup. This is kind of Tom's monthly exercise that I'm standing in for in terms of rolling through the most impactful events and funding announcements and product launches of the last month. I'm going to roll through this rather quickly. You can actually read the whole list and links if you go to Tom's Medium page, which is medium.com/@TomEmmerich. So starting off with the numbers. Microsoft HoloLens, again, our star of the night, with HoloLens 2, the field of view, as many of you may have read, has increased to 52 degrees, up from 34 degrees in the first generation. Elsewhere in the world of AR, we see a third of retailers, almost a third of retailers, are reporting that they plan to bring augmented reality to their in-store experiences in various ways. So in-aisle AR experiences, and 9% are already doing so, according to BRP Consulting. And then the Weather Channel expects that 80% of its programming will feature AR in different ways, what it calls immersive mixed reality video by 2020. And many of you have probably seen over the last year, a lot of the storm coverage on the Weather Channel increasingly is infused with a lot of kind of AR animations. Feature video. So there have been a lot of HoloLens 2 reviews and hands-on demos. The ones we selected, or the one we selected, is from The Verge, which you can actually see in full at The Verge's YouTube channel, or just going to The Verge and searching. But it was a pretty detailed view at some of the specs and other kind of dynamics of HoloLens 2. So on to the money. So Matterport is kind of the big winner there in terms of funding rounds, raising $48 million to ramp up its 3D imaging platform. And I think this one's interesting because Matterport is emblematic of companies in early stages of emerging technologies where we often see a lot of kind of adaptability and pivots, and Matterport moving on from a very hardware-focused approach as that hardware starts to become more and more commoditized, focusing more on its platform, and somewhat of a confident signal of it doing that with $48 million in funding. Magic Leap accepted 31 companies into its independent creator program. Moving on to hardware, Nreal raised $16 million for its mixed reality glasses. Did anyone get to see those at Mobile World Congress, the Nreal Lite? Very interesting in that it's the kind of model and the dynamics that's probably the closest of what we can expect from Apple's rumored glasses in having reliance on smartphone in terms of CPU and GPU and connectivity. One of the first devices to really do that. Control Labs raised $28 million from Google Ventures, and Alexa Fund. Both RealWear and Massless also announced rounds last month. On to platforms. So Medvis has launched its AR platform for surgical planning. It got $2.3 million in funding. Reflect raised $5 million in Series A funding. Where's Dirk? Dirk, you're here. Raise your hand. Oh, there he is. Talk to Dirk if you want to hear more about Reflect, the funding, what they're doing. A lot of interesting things happening there. And then also Dark Slope secured $1.5 million. That's a Toronto-based company. So featured tweet. This is really interesting. So I have to preface this by saying this isn't a live available AR product yet. It's more of a concept video, proof of concept. But this is cool. So this was from Legoland in Denmark, where what they're doing is exposing a potential opportunity to optimize the kind of in-theme park experience through AR in both kind of wayfinding, but also information about where you can find the shortest lines and just kind of optimizing that experience. I think that in-theme park use case is going to be a big area of development for AR, and this was an interesting kind of concept of what it could look like. So on to hardware. So of course, Microsoft launched HoloLens 2, our star of the night. But interestingly, there were a lot of other orbiting announcements around the hardware, which you probably saw. So Microsoft and Trimble showed a hard hat with HoloLens built in. Microsoft announced an Azure-powered Kinect camera for enterprise. And there were several other kind of headset-based announcements that kind of also happened in the last month. So there were some from Vuzix and Qualcomm and Magic Leap. On the mobile AR side, we saw Samsung unveil its S10 with a rear-facing depth camera. So the vanguard of that kind of hardware and optics that we expect will be more or less standardized over the next few years. In terms of platforms, again, a lot of orbiting announcements around HoloLens 2. So Microsoft announced, along with HoloLens 2, spatial anchors and remote rendering. And that's very interesting, too, because this tells us that Microsoft is occupying a greater portion of the stack over time. So it has the hardware in HoloLens 2, it has the operating system, obviously, it has the cloud support with Azure, it has the app layer, previously with things like remote assist and layout, and now joining that, most recently, is spatial anchors and remote rendering. So it's really just building that robust stack, and we continue to see that develop. AR Core 1.7 added AR Faces API for AR selfies and more kind of precise facial measurements. And Mozilla brings Firefox AR VR browser to Microsoft HoloLens 2. Featured quote. So how many of you read the Kevin Kelly Mirror World piece cover article on the Mirror World? Nice. A lot of you, it looks like you didn't read it. I'd highly recommend it. It's all of the kind of things we've been talking about in this community, but really kind of amplified to like a larger audience. And the quote that Tom selected is, "The mirror world doesn't yet fully exist, but it's coming. So someday soon, every place and thing in the real world, every street, lamppost, building, and room will have full-size digital twin in the mirror world. For now, only tiny patches of the mirror world are visible through AR headsets. Piece by piece, these virtual fragments are being stitched together to form a shared persistent place that will parallel the real world." So that's really, you know, the AR cloud, the stuff that we've been talking about in this community, especially its leaders like Ori and Tom and Matt have been talking about for a long time. So it's really good to see this kind of validated in a more kind of amplified platform that is Wired Magazine to the kind of broader tech community. So I'd recommend reading that article if you haven't. In terms of application and content, ILMX Lab, launched Star Wars Project Porg on Magic Leap 1. CNN also launched an experience on Magic Leap 1. Pokemon Go is now getting a photo mode where you can essentially pose with captured Pokemon in real world scenes. And this is interesting too, because we often, or a lot of people, will invoke Pokemon Go when talking about AR. And you know, a lot of people, most people don't actually use AR mode when playing Pokemon Go. This is what I see a move towards bringing AR more into the gameplay as an in-app experience. And there's an extra kind of viral kick, and these photos are shareable. We also see, what else? So Google has, last month you may have seen, launched or released to a subset of users and journalists its AR mode in terms of walking directions, urban walking directions in Google Maps. And this really represents something that solves real pain points and really could be where AR kind of collides with everyday use cases and represents some of the killer apps we begin to see. So we'll be excited to see that roll out to a larger level. But there are some good reviews in Wall Street Journal and in Gadget and others about that release. So lastly, marketing. So how is AR colliding with advertising and marketing? So Snapchat using AR to transform empty shops into pop-up Legos wear stores. USA Today launched an AR costume in time for the Oscars. And then lastly, London Fashion Week teamed up with 3Mobile and Magic Leap for a mixed reality fashion show for Central St. Martin in London. So that's actually it for the roundup. A lot of items. I rolled through those quickly, but again, go to Tom's Medium if you want to see any of those items. I skipped over some of them. You can read it at your own pace, and also kind of link through to some of the original reporting. So now we're going to move on to our agenda. So what we have first is two speakers from Microsoft. We have Nick and Dan. I think we're starting with Nick, correct? Yep. And then we'll hear from Dan. We're going to hear from each of them for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A with both of them, and then move on to the rest of our program. So please join me in welcoming